Just so you know, the EDL said today this is going to be the big one. They got 3,500, 4,000 in Stoke. They've maybe got 4,000 to 5,000 in Dudley. And at the moment, according to both the BBC and our own people there, they've got less than 800. It's very, very good news for us today, because for once, they are not the many, they are the few, and it's time that we started to say they have no right to protest in our cities anymore. It's time to say goodbye to the EDL. Now they're claiming on the BBC, more are coming. Well, let's see. Well, let's see what they get. But this hasn't been the big one for the EDL. But it seems to me we have to understand a few things about the EDL, what they're doing and what they're about. Because first of all, it seems to me there are three components to the English Defence League, and after the World Cup, I kind of think of it as the English No Defence League, no Midfield League, and certainly no Attack League. They began as they did in Luton, and they are, I think, a combination of three things. First, they are really based around football hooligans, and I know that for a fact because me and Wayman Bennett went to speak in Newport against the Welsh Defence League many months ago, and we were sitting eating our breakfast, and this EDL guy came up and threw a card at me, and the card was a phone number, and he said to me, "Why don't you, your firm, meet my firm?" I said, "What are you talking about, firms?" I said, "I'm an anti-racist, I'm an anti-fascist, I don't hang around with a firm." He goes, "I'm not interested in these protests, I just want to fight." But that gives you some idea of the people they're recruiting around them. The second thing, and I think is very, very important, is they are driven by a deep Islamophobia, anti-Muslim racism for a different word if you want to use a different term. Their whole emphasis is against the Muslim community and scapegoating, just like the Nazis treated the Jews in the 30s. The Muslims in this country have become the new scapegoats and are being, viciously assaulted by the EDL supporters. And the third thing we have to say about them is that they are recruiting people from the BNP who are trying to organise their campaigns. And when people say to me, "That's not true," I say, well, all right then. Alan Thompson was in Combat 18 and the BNP in Tower Hamlets. He now runs the Chelsea people that come up from EU. That's a one-off. Okay then. What about the guy who runs Birmingham, EDL? BNP, Chris Renton, BNP organiser. Oh yes, that's another one-off. What about Pepin? He runs the Welsh Defence League, involved in Jobbik in Hungary. Oh yes, that's just another one. What about Alan Lake, a businessman who both does internet providers for both the Swedish Nazis, Jobbik, and for the BNP? And he funds the EDL. You see, one swallow doesn't make a summer, four do. And everywhere we go, the connection between the BNP and the EDL takes place. Just around the corner, 1.5 hours ago, the EDL met the local Yorkshire branch of the BNP. So don't tell me these people who are hanging around are not fascists. These people are working with the fascists. Many may not be Nazis yet, but they're trying to turn them into fascists. And we are seeing the rise of a street movement based around racism and Islamophobia, and the rest of us will be next if we ignore them and leave them alone. And that's why we're here today, because wherever they go, wherever they march, it's vital that the left, that the Muslim community, the anti-racists and everybody else joins in and stands together. It's vital, because if we let them terrorise us, they will drive us from the streets, and we will see a repeat of Italy in the early 1920s and Germany in the 1930s. And I come from an old slogan, which is never again. Never again must we make the mistake of allowing the left to be divided. I don't care whether you're in the SWP, I don't care whether you're in the Labour Party, I don't care if you're a Green, I don't care if you're an anarchist, I don't care if you're religious or not. What I understand is there's more that unites us than divides us. And when the EDL come to town, We stand together, united, because they are the enemy and not each other. So they have no truck with those who say and argue over semantics and political differences. There is time and place for that. But when the EDL come to town, there is no time and place for that. We have to go back to an old slogan, which is the fist and the fingers. When we're divided, we're like the fingers on our hands. I don't know if you've had a fight with your finger. It's not very good. To try and poke someone is not a good way to fight. And our movement has always come together. Like your fingers on a hand, we close up and we create a fist. And that's what Unite Against Fascism and Love Music is all about. It's about bringing the biggest number of people together to unite to beat the BNP and the racist EDL. And really, our task is very, very simple, because the EDL are continuing to march, and our job is to grind them down. Every time they march, we're there. I was at Bolton. We took everything they could at Bolton, and we grind them down. We did it in Newcastle, we did it in Cardiff, we did it in East London. We grind them down, we showed them that we are the majority and they are the few. But I do want to end with two things, actually. I want to ask two things, actually. For those who don't know, I'm going to court on 7th of September. I'm charged for the BBC protest, when the BBC thought it was a really good idea to let Nick Griffin appear on our TV stations, and said, exactly. The BBC said, oh, it won't matter, we'll listen to Nick Griffin and nothing will happen. But I tell you, it did. Because Nick Griffin made a homophobic attack on Question Time. And who took the brunt of that? The gay community in Britain. You see, wherever these people go on our TVs, it's not about a rational debate. What goes on is them giving confidence to thugs to attack mosques, temples, churches, Asian people, gay and lesbian communities, our trade union movement. And we mustn't let them get away with that anymore. We mustn't let the idea that they're just harmless people who want to just get elected. These people will use Parliament to break the backbone of democracy in this country, will try and break the backbone of the trade union movement and break and isolate our communities. And that's why we've got to stand united. We mustn't give them a chink in which to break through and attack our sides. So my plea is really, really simple. For those who don't know, I will be going to court for the BBC protest, and I'd hope to see everybody there on the 7th of September if you live in London. There's going to be a tube strike, so it means that I welcome, very much so. But I'd like you to take a bus and a train and come and join me there, because the magistrate seems to think there's nothing to worry about, that he won't be swayed by the numbers of people outside. Well, the fact that he said he won't be swayed means he will be. So I'm a great believer in our great judicial service, and I think the more, when you've got them by the balls, sometimes you have to squeeze just a little bit harder, and I'd like you all to help squeeze it for me on that day. So I hope you'll come and join me. I also hope that you'll be there on the 6th of November in London to join our national demonstration. But before that, the English Defence League will be going to Holland, to Amsterdam, where they're going to launch the European Defence League. And their target will be Muslims across Europe and the Roma. And they will be gathering with other fascist, racist organisations on that day, and they'll be organising a demonstration in support of Geert Wilders, the racist Dutch politician. And I think we have to be clear. This is a movement that's trying to develop from England and spread race hate right across Europe, and we're seeing too much race hate in Europe as it is. So we need to make sure in London on that day that we march in London, but we'll also be going as UAF to Holland to support our brothers and sisters in Holland protesting about Geert Wilders. I hope some of you will come and join us then. And then we know the EDL are going to plan 2 more big demonstrations, one back in Luton and another in Leicester. Why these 2 communities again? It's obvious. Big Asian communities, they want to try and intimidate them and start up their organisation again. My message is simple. Today was fantastic, because what we showed today is that we don't have to hide in our homes, that we can protest and there's not a riot. We can make a stand and not have the police just smash us and treat us as so. And I'm disgusted with the police, to be quite honest with you. Why are they equating the local press, UAF, as the same as the EDL? The EDL bring hate and attack people. We stand together, everyone together. You can't equate anti-racism with racism. It just won't do in this country to say that, and we have to make a strong plea. But we know what we've got to do next time. We know when the EDL come to town, we can't have organisations peeling off and calling separate demonstrations. It's not acceptable to split the movement. We need a united movement, one that stands together and not marches on a different day. I'm sorry they did that. I think it was a big mistake. And I'll tell you, have you seen the police protest today? I don't know if you know this. The police and the council organised their own demonstration today miles away. Guess how many people are in the field out there? 5. So, I laugh, but all they've done is they tried to sow confusion so people don't know what protests to go on. Should they stay in or not? We have to have a united voice in every town and city in this country. Is if the EDL come, you don't stay at home. You don't march on a separate day. You come to your town centre, your city centre, and you defend it, and you fight for the right to demonstrate. We are not going to be ghettoised, pushed back and driven out of our towns and cities. So you go back, you spread the message, because next time we don't want 1,500 or 2,000 of us. We want 10, 15, 20,000, because then we get even. And I always believe it's time to get even. So united we stand, no more separate protests, one big united movement against racism and fascism. Thank you.